haven't had tea yet.
Yeah. We've had to delay our dinner slightly to do this, folks. I hope you appreciate our sacrifice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
world's shortest review coming up.
Yeah, because we have to make up for last week, because last week was like nearly 40 minutes of me talking about it was just facts. It was a fact one, much like in rock. Actually, it was just me talking. Then occasionally you came up with something quite interesting to talk about, and then I went back to the facts. Off we went again. But yeah, we're not doing that because we're doing. I don't know what you can see now. I actually can't. I can't see. Oh, you can't see.
It's disappearing.
Yeah, there we go. There. That's what we're doing. So yeah, before I forget, from '82. The Gentleman of Rock. Respectful statement of the organ and piano. Not keys. You have to say organ and piano. So people will be surprised we're doing this one. There's 3 solo albums in the 70s, which people consider the big ones. John Lord's solo albums. Well, there's the classics from the 70s. That's a continuation of the style of the concerto. They're probably more well realised or whatever than the concerto, but we've done that, and it's big over the top stuff with big swooping. It's an entire symphony orchestra, etc. I wanted to do 3 different albums, and I just didn't feel like listening to that stuff right now. There was with these reviews, there was an element of what do I want to listen to at the moment. I wanted something more introverted, which he's really good at. Although I wasn't sure whether we'd get the evidence of this one. I bought this one. The other 2 albums we're doing I've had for many, many years, but this I bought specifically for this. So I didn't have high expectations because of the year. He was still in Whitesnake, or had just left. No, I think was still in Whitesnake. So it's not a very laud time. The stuff I'm looking for is the real John Lord stuff. There's no orchestra. It's from the 80s. What's that going to sound like? And you put the first song on, and it's boring. Chance on a feeling, random, boring riff, and then we get some more what you would expect. It's a tasteful neoclassical rock, if that's a thing. If it's possible to have tasteful neoclassical rock, John Lord's the man to do that, and it's great and it's lots of fun. And then you think, well, okay, that's the first side. That's the first 4 tracks, and it's like, well, do we really need 2 sides of this stuff? Now here's the thing. What I thought we'd be saying next week, someone who likes Elgar and Bach and is a rock person, you wouldn't expect them to write nice, pensive, tasteful stuff. But that's John Lord's style, and that's on side 2. Very much in evidence on side 2. Once we get past the fun neoclassical stuff, and one bland rock song. There's one bland rock song, so I was exaggerating. Stuff like For a Friend is excellent and not on the album, interestingly. But then you got the title track. That's the same kind of stuff. It's really good. Lyrical, instrumental, really nice progressions. It never falls into muzak. It's one of those things that keeps your attention, but it's really introverted and perfect lockdown music. That was what I wanted, I didn't realise I'd get more of it. New stuff I haven't heard before, so that was great. And it, as well as that, it is quite varied, so that's a good thing. And the other stuff is mostly fun, cool stuff. It is all about side 2 for me. There is an 80s-ness, but there's some very nice stuff on it. There you
go. Yeah, so I didn't really know what to expect from this, because you kind of intimated that it might be more of the same from Concerto for Group and Orchestra, and it's not that
at all.
No, and it's in the 80s, and it's sort of like, what's going on? And you put Chance on a Feeling, and as you say, Chance on a Feeling is a bit cheesy pie. Very, very of its time.
Probably pleasing someone in a suit to get them to release the record, I would think.
We
Nothing wrong with
need
it,
a
but-
single on this that we can sell.
Yeah, as if you would have a hit single. I mean,
But yeah, it's actually not that bad. The Bach onto this, I'm a bit like that sort of thing. You know, putting a classical music in a rock song.
in a very sort of obvious way.
Yeah, it's dangerous territory. I can't see it working myself. It feels more like an oddity than an actual song, sort of like messing about.
Yeah, it's
but
a
you
bit of
say
fun.
the tone of the album is fun.
Yeah.
And it is that.
Yeah.
And it didn't annoy me, which is good.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like I said, is there such a thing as tasteful neoclassical rock? If there is, that's it. But I don't know whether it actually exists.
I was trying to think about it. Has it ever been done successfully? And what popped into my head was White Shade of Pale, which is supposedly,
Well, it is. It's air, isn't it?
It is.
That's less.
and that works, but that is sort of that's not the same. They're not deliberately trying to do a version of, or
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
it is different.
Yeah.
But that definitely works. But the thing with these type of albums, I've got to ask the question is, if it wasn't John Lord, or let's say it was John Lord, but this was he wasn't in Deep Purple and he wasn't famous,
Yeah.
and this was a debut album, would it have ever got made? And given the time frame, I'm not entirely sure.
Not in 1982.
Yeah, it's a bit. Stuff got made in the 80s, which I don't know how it happened. But my sense is that this probably wouldn't if it wasn't John Lord.
Exactly. Yeah.
And therefore, it feels a bit average to me on that score. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, so yeah. It's in the 80s. It is definitely in the 80s. But I think side 2 is where we hear John Lord. I mean, I came up with, as you do because you've got to review an album, it's like a less reserved Rick Wright, who isn't perpetually trapped in Wish You Were Here. If Rick Wright hadn't been on Wish You Were Here and wasn't so reserved, that's the thing. It's not quite Tony Banks, because Tony Banks is much more of a song person. John's not a song person. That's kind of why he's a bit sidelined in the writing in Deep Purple, and he ends up writing the organ solo, and at the same time he doesn't sort of, it's all very tasteful, he's far too gentlemanly. He's a gentleman to be Rick Wakeman and just be obnoxious and start playing Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 in the middle of a rock song like Keith Emerson, so it's really nice. And he has really distinctive style to these particular songs. He does these ballady things, these really nice descending progressions. That's Before I Forget, it's Burntwood, and For a Friend, which isn't on the album. Vicky Brown and Sam Brown, that's wife and daughter of Joe Brown, so I think Sam Brown is probably now the most famous out of them, are on it. Backing vocals, I think Vicky Brown sings a couple of songs. I prefer of the second side, I prefer the instrumental stuff than the singy stuff. There's Say It's Alright, there's more of an R&B thing going on. What the fuck does that say? You could argue there's something petic about Tefact. What? Okay, I don't know what that means. The other cool thing is, obviously, because it's John Lord, there's loads of famous people on it. Ian Pace on drums, Simon Phillips on drums, Cozy Powell on drums, and Simon Kirke on drums. He's got 4, that's just awesome. So there's quite a few big names on it. That's pretty cool, without it being like this song has David Coverdale on it and then the next song has this person on it. It's not like that. Not like Santana when he got the Flavour of the Month people to play on his album and suddenly had another million selling thing. So yeah, it's great. I think it's great. I really like it. But I would skip the first side completely, probably. I
It's
think.
a bit too messy about it, isn't it?
Yeah, which is what it's meant to. If he's, I mean, it's really interesting. He did that while he was in Whitesnake, and my impression is that his sort of creativity didn't return until quite a bit later. He didn't write for Deep Purple in the 80s, really, not very much, hardly at all. So I thought it was like the 90s he sort of found his muse again and all that, but actually it turns out it was always there. But his day job was just a day job. It was just a job, you know. He's not even on those Whitesnake records. He's there, but he's not. But he's John Lord, and why? Well, you know, why have you got two guitarists? Just boring. Yeah, it's 4 eggs for me.
It's a 3-egger for me.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really do much for me, but didn't upset me. Didn't make me bored. Put it that way.
Yeah, right.
Which
So
is good.
you didn't pick up on the nice second sidey stuff as a thing. It was just
Yeah,
some
I
stuff.
think it was the sort of the ballady thing with Vicky Brown.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
Burntwood? I actually
Say It's
I
All
thought
Right.
that this is a proper song. This is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely some decent songs. Definitely.
Yeah, it really does remind me of the 80s of like what's it called, Cigarettes and Something by Eric Clapton. It's all that type of stuff where there was a very, very famous musicians making albums of music, and the music was there and it was recorded and they released it. There is an element of that.
And they made some money.
Yeah, but you have to remember this was, you know, I think the last solo album was, well, he did. Oh. Yeah, his last solo album was
Saraband,
yeah.
76.
And then there was Windows and Gemini Suite before that. So this was 82, and this was the only one in the 80s. So there's big gaps. So it's just an outlet, isn't it? He just wanted to do it. Probably because there was very little outlet in Whitesnake, I'm sure.
Yeah. Are we doing another John Lord album?
Yes. People have probably already guessed what it's going to be next. It's got to be Pictured Within next week.
Picture Within.
Mm-hmm.
That's good then.
Excellent.
That gets that all locked up.
Yeah. Possibly a very flat review. We're very sorry.
Well, it's the middle one, you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're going to end on a high, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, we've had some patrons, Kev.
We have indeed. Yeah. We've got too many now. So after John Lord, we have to do all these albums they've asked for.
Maybe we should give them a bit of a shout out.
Yeah.
Do you remember who we've done?
I don't know.
Let's have a look. Mark Fletcher.
Hello, Mark Fletcher. Welcome.
Thank you very much. He might have actually. I'm not sure if he's already been done. John Lawrence.
John Lawrence, hello.
He gets a shout out. Thank you very much. They're watching our Pink Floyd reviews as we speak.
Yeah, and Genesis.
And Genesis. That seems to be it. Someone's deleted their pledge.
Fair enough.
That don't matter.
Fair play.
They contributed as, you know.
In spirit.
But yeah, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got some reviews coming your way.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So we will see you next week.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. And cheers.
Yeah, let's go have some food.